Hey everyone, it's Ryan1940, and today we are on Enigma's Cold War server in the HIP, and we're going to run a Multicrew sortie with a guy named Firebird who's in HIP gang, and we also got another HIP out there, a guy named Marble who's also in HIP gang. And we're on comms with each other in Discord, and you're going to see ultimately in this sortie, this was a good one. It was about 25-30 minutes long, and it was 4 downed enemy helicopters, and ultimately we got downed by Huey. And I wanted to make a video on fighting the Huey against the HIP and kind of showing the differences and tactics of what gets you killed and what got me killed. And I wanted to do that because a guy in Reddit, after this sortie was done, made a post about the HIP door gunner just completely wasting him 2 times in a row. And we got to chatting, and I think it might have been me in this sortie that was causing that frustration. And we'll see when the Huey gets me, like what the main difference is and what you could do to stay alive if you're in a Huey and you're not quite sure yet because you're just beginning to fly the thing. So not long ago we lifted from the FARP. We're still flying in the red sector, and I noticed red smoke nearby. Now if you see colored smoke on your side of the border near your flight path, it does warrant a little bit of investigating. In ECW, the Gazelle or the Huey can drop recon, so you've got to assume one is operating nearby, and you don't want to turn your back to that area until you're sure that no one's still close to it. And being a helicopter pilot in ECW, I assume the best location to attack our camps is beyond this ridge line ahead of us, so I want to take a peek over the other side and make sure that it's clear before we head into enemy territory. As we fly over the area, I notice wreckage that could be remnants of an enemy helicopter, so just because I'm not so sure, I'm just going to do a quick search around. And as I'm doing that, I'm also watching the kill feed and keeping a mental timer in my head for 3 minutes, because if a helicopter is landed somewhere, within 3 minutes I should see his troop drop, destroy a camp nearby. Once that timer elapses and nothing happens, I'm kind of sure that whatever helicopter was here is now gone, so I can just cruise on over to the enemy side. Everything looks pretty clear on the other side of the train here, so Firebird and I head off to the front line, and while we're doing that we discuss how to pass over the controls if needed. Now the default command is the C key on your keyboard to give the controls to the co-pilot if you're flying, and then vice versa to pass it from the co-pilot to the pilot position. One thing you have to be aware of is the cyclic and the rudder pedals and the collective positions kind of need to be as close as possible to each other, because if you pass it over and they're holding the controls all weird, the helicopter's just gonna have a jarring movement and flip over into that direction that the controls are being input in. So the good way to get around that is to kind of put the helicopter into a very neutral trim position where you're not having to hold the pedals and the cyclic, and then from there you just kind of have to do your best to match up the collective, but it's not too big of a deal because you can kind of catch that relatively quickly if it's really out of sync. For this sortie though, Firebird just wants to not fly, and he just wants to help do the troop drops and keep his eyes out of the cockpit and help me navigate as well. After a few minutes of flying, we are in enemy territory and we get our first recon drop in. There was a little confusion as the recon drop was set by me and was accidentally cancelled when the co-pilot was checking the status of what was set up. And when you change to the F1 view, if you still have that drop menu open, it will cancel the drop. And it's not a big deal, it was easy enough to reset it. And right now we haven't come across a lot of enemy aircraft yet, so there isn't really a need to be fast about these things or to do any sort of hot drops. We're set down here in a nice cut in the terrain to mask us from some enemy camps that are nearby ahead of us, and by now Marble has lifted in his HIP and is heading out towards us, passing the red smoke. I let him know we checked it out and it didn't really find any activity beyond that, so he could just keep pressing towards the front if he wanted. After a few seconds on the ground, we take off and accelerate down this little cut in the terrain. Ideally, I want to build up as much speed as possible under the cover before we're fully exposed to all those threats that are out there. Next thing on our agenda is to engage 2 camps ahead of us. The JTAC has marked a camp with white smoke, and initially we noticed the second camp to the west, which I thought was unfortunate because I wanted to land near the town ahead of us and get some cover from those buildings. Flying closer at it though, Firebird and I came to the conclusion that the second camp is actually dead, and that opens us up for a nice drop near the town and great cover for us to attack that camp that the JTAC is marking.
Yeah, we got white smoke on the left. I think we got something up close on our nose here.
Yeah, there is. I'm wondering if we can get kind of by those buildings, but we'll see.
Oh, let's see.
After a minute or so, it's time for us to do our standard troop drop. As you can see here, I'm not full speed coming into this landing, and there really isn't a need to be flying like that at the moment. There aren't enemy threats from the air coming at us just yet. And to help us further, I instruct the co-pilot to watch that smoke, and he can tell us when tracers are coming out at us, because I just want to focus on my landing and not have to worry about incoming fire if he can just call that out for me. I normally drop 12 out of 12 standard troops when I'm doing troop drops, just in case I catch a second camp or a third camp that I don't know about that's in range. The only time I kind of deviate from this is when I know for a fact there's maybe 1 or 2 units that are left in a camp that is known about. And in that case, I'll drop 4 soldiers to finish them off as I head out and seek for more targets with the 2 remaining squads on board. The downside of doing a full troop drop like this is the risk of losing them all to enemy fire. Or you can have what happened to us in this sortie, where we drop the guys off and then we head out, other threats come up and tie us up in time, and then those squads just fully despawn and we lose the ability to do any sort of attack at that point.
What's the standard timer?
3 minutes. We loiter around for a few minutes, the recon elapses, and so we come down to pick them up. Our standard troop drops also complete their mission and the nearby camp is destroyed. Firebird plugs into the compass the heading that we need to fly to reach our standard troops. If you're multi-crewing as a co-pilot, this is a great thing to do to help take some work off the pilot's plate and help him keep his eyes out of the F10 map, which can be a major killer. As we head out towards the troop pickup, I notice a moving dot. And being on comms with Marble, we know he's in the area in his hip, but he tells us he's in a hover, so any moving contact is potentially not friendly. I make the decision to blow past our troop pickup and then head towards that contact. It took a couple of minutes, but we intercepted the Huey. It was obvious he wasn't aware of us initially. I had climbed high thinking he was going to engage us, but he kept going until we opened up. By now, Marble has done a troop drop and is dragging our way to assist us in case anything gets out of hand. The first pass on the Huey, we get a couple of bursts in, but it doesn't catch on fire. I thought he was initially going to impact the terrain, so I held off on the chase for a few seconds.
I just saw him dive
when he keeps going after he misses the ground, that's when I dive down on his tail and begin running him down. When you're running away from a hip and you're in a Huey, you're slightly slower, so unless someone is coming to help you, you're inevitably going to be shot down. I try to slide the gun over to get another burst on him and accelerate the intercept to a finale, but it doesn't seem to have much effect and we keep the chase going. After a few minutes, the Huey decides to turn around abruptly, and in a hip, when this happens, this is a great trade-off. The Huey's going to turn and be slower because they're going to try to be kind of aggressive and attempt to catch you by surprise, and they're going to need to quickly figure out where you're at so they can get their forward weapons on you. Once you see this happening, all you got to do is zoom climb if you're in the hip. You'll gain such a gigantic altitude advantage. You're going to slow down the closure rate, so now you guys can get your left door gun on the Huey in a climb, and it's going to bait them to try to come up as well. But by now they've burned off a lot of energy, so it's just not a fight that they're going to win. Once a Huey is on fire, your door gunner is going to stop shooting at the Huey, so you need to make sure that you keep your eyes on the aircraft and that keep that nose off of you in case they have forward firing weapons. So continue your climbing circle with them, and eventually within a few seconds the fire will either cause the tail rotor to fail, the tail will snap, or the main rotor will fail. Once I see the Huey get really vertical, I know at that point the helicopter's done. There's no real way at that slow speed to survive that sort of maneuver in the Huey. The rotors will just snap. And so I'm free to dive away. At this point, Marble and I, we both decide to go pick up our troops finally, and we head back towards the front line.
Yeah, we got our recon, guys. We need to go pick up our standards.
As we head out, I notice off on the horizon to the right there is a dot, and I'm picking up some red tracers, and to me that's always indicative of a Huey with their miniguns. They just produce a major light show for everyone around to detect. Marble indicates a Huey is probably attacking his troops right now from what he sees in the kill feed. And so now we're going to race over there to intercept and hopefully save some of his squads before all of them are destroyed.
Can you see me?
Not a lot. Yeah, I'm in about half-mile trail.
Okay, maybe I can drag him and then just circle back into you.
So the Huey is really focused here on getting the ground troops and continues to attack them as we circle around and try to get some door gun bursts on him. Eventually the Huey does that abrupt stop and turn thing which I've mentioned before, and in the hip it's so easy to counter. You just go zooming up. That'll kill your relative speed to the Huey and then puts you in a position where now you're high above it shooting down on the left side. And if the guy tries to run at that point, you've got speed that you can cash in the form of a dive. So it's not long before this Huey is on fire and crashes. And now we try it once again to go pick up our troops, but now I'm worried because there's 2 Hueys we just shot down in rapid succession. It's pretty obvious at that point that more helicopters are going to come out to meet us.
In this middle seat.
Once we get in the area, I check the map and our troops have disappeared, so now we've lost 12 out of 12 troops because we went after those 2 Hueys, and I've only got recon on board, so I figure the rest of this sortie will just be keeping the helicopters out of the red sector while dropping recon when I can. And it doesn't take very long before we come across another Huey coming from the direction of their FARP. We turn to intercept, and hopefully I can stop this guy from messing with Marble while he's doing his troop drops, or I can stop them from doing their own troop drops if they were intending to cross the border. So I get really high over this Huey, and he comes up at me. Doesn't bleed off as much speed as I thought he would, but I could see from the gunfire that it's probably being aimed by the pilot. Once he goes past, I continue to turn at altitude, and I didn't notice his left door gunner being present or if it was destroyed, but I absolutely noticed that there wasn't a left forward minigun.
There.
So I felt relatively safe in a circle with this guy at co-alt. He tries to run, but I translate with my gun still pointed at him to fire, and it doesn't take long before the guy is set ablaze. Now I didn't get the kill for this guy because he combat logged, but I'm still going to count it. In the server, it doesn't matter if you don't get the kill. It still attrits the other side if you take off and you don't return your aircraft.
Falling?
So, I mean, he could have had network issues at that point, but who knows. Anyways, we try to collect our bearings, and Marble, who's observing the fight, tells us that he just blew up and an Apache had hit him with a Hellfire. So we dive down and we spot that one pretty close to us, so it's time to get into the fight again. Firebird confirms that it is an Apache off our nose, and I'm a little confused as to what it's doing. It flies underneath us, kind of turns into us a little bit, but then keeps going. I'm initially afraid of its 30mm gun, so I'm trying to keep the hip in a tight circle overhead because I don't want him to get to the point where he can point his nose upward at us. And if I was this Apache, on that approach I actually would have climbed to meet it nose on and fire either rockets or that forward gun at the... If you know the hip is slick, then there's really not a way that they could fight back at you if you're coming straight on with them. The Apache makes a lazy turn back, and I'm still observing from above, waiting to get into a good range to open up with the guns, but it seems to have flight control issues. I'm not sure if our burst caused any critical damage, but it almost appears like there was a drop in the main rotor RPM, and the Apache eventually impacts the ground. Now this Apache was really cool and let us get a few bursts in. I appreciate that, especially after having a helicopter disconnect on us, whether it was intentional or not. And ultimately we get shot at by a nearby camp, and I didn't want to stick around to try and get the kill when we're taking hostile fire, but luckily right as we're leaving we get the kill on this Apache.
Should we sit down next to him?
Yeah.
They might. Oh, we got hit. We got hit.
Ooh, by what?
Might be a camp that was nearby.
Oh yeah, there's one right behind you actually.
I head home after that battle damage, and after a while I decide to do a clearing turn where we detect a Huey that's coming at us. Now the difference between this Huey and the others is the setup is almost nearly identical. This guy, however, had rockets, and you could see within 2 bursts I'm dead. I thought he was about to fall out after that first burst missed us, and I was basically waiting for him to either nose to the left in a turn or to push the nose forward, and he would snap his rotor off. So you can see here, if you're in a Huey and you want to attack a hip, this is probably the most effective way to do it, is to use the rockets. The hip is a giant target. When you use your forward miniguns against the hip, when I do these setups where I like to go really high, the miniguns don't do enough damage to make it worthwhile. In that trade-off, the 12.7mm door gun from the hip is absolutely going to cause tremendous damage to the Huey. So I hope that was informative, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.